self-publicising, there's a process of like vetting going on in your brain, like, so it's selective publicising. You're not publicising each and every one of your thoughts, you're publicising selective thoughts.
There are people kind of maybe like higher up the intelligence scale who are thinking,
who are more selective,
who
about
are editing,
yeah.
But those people are still presenting a reality where it's not edited. Like, I don't think that online there's kind of a sense, because of the immediacy of the medium, and that's basically its strong point, that anybody considered anything too much. Like, that's just not what online is.
Yeah.
So then you kind of lead everybody else into much more like less considered.
Yeah.
Lack of
sharing
of information.
Yeah, and I like that. I do think that that's ultimately that's the achievement of the internet. That was what the internet, I think that's its greatest achievement in a way, to get people to be able to encourage that form of expression and to enable anyone to express their thoughts in that way.
What, spontaneously?
Yeah. Well, spontaneity.
And on equal platform.
The spontaneity and the democracy of it. I think they're the two great achievements of the internet.
I think that, like, now we've kind of moved on, especially people our age who like have experience.
We
like,
know what they're doing.
Yeah, we know what we're doing. So don't you think that maybe leads to like a kind of expression which is very controlled? And because like, if you've ever been on YouTube or whatever, it's like I can find you and I can see what you said, and it's like super, super, super traceable.
Yeah.
It's on record, basically. And I don't know, I think if you're getting used to like publicising everything or releasing all your information, and then you start editing your information, then what happens to all the information that you don't edit? Or I don't know, that was actually instigated by, in 1984, where they like can't have a relationship because they don't have any privacy, and nobody can. There's no sort of like nursery or whatever, kindergarten space for depth of emotion, because there is no privacy. So how do people? And that's what the book demonstrates. So I kind of thought, is that what's happening now?
Yeah, I mean, only that it's not. I suppose it comes down to that thing that we're saying. It sounds really awful saying it, but how adept you are to using the internet. So, somebody who is well versed in the internet knows how to use it. Then I don't think that it's so much of a concern, because it's not imposed on them. They're choosing to use it. They're choosing to publicise themselves, and they know what.
But do you think you're choosing?
I think you
are choosing, but I still think you've got to be. It's like, however other million people there are under 25 plus, like, serious, massive marketing and advertising campaigns. I really think that, choosing to use the internet, how can you not use it? Or and it's like Facebook.
You can use it. You don't have to publicise yourself.
No, but it's all like public. Unless you only send emails, but it's just kind of the.
No, I get what you mean. I suppose there's more. Yeah, the main difference between obviously what you're talking about in 1984 is that it's imposed. You can't escape it. So that you have to acknowledge that there is an element of choice and decision making in what you're doing by using social networking sites and like doing interviews online or whatever. But yeah, and I think that you have to fully embrace the internet and to use it properly, you have to sort of let go of a certain amount of your privacy, and you have to let go of controlling, being a sense of control, which is something that I personally struggle with. I'm the kind of person that will delete tweets, which you can't do. It's sort of like it's against.
But you can if you want to.
Yeah, but it's out there. Someone will have read it. It's out there. It's gone. It's done. And that's why it's sort of like it's a big psychological leap that you have to make to be able to just let go.
Yeah. And
sort of allow the internet to be a sort of historical documentation of the things you did, good or bad.
Yeah. But then how do you think that attitude, like... Because that all sounds quite kind of... I'm okay with that. But then, I mean, do you think that there are consequences, like, offline? Like, what do you kind of see them as? If you're kind of like, well, I can just put stuff out there and maybe it's good and, like, maybe it's bad, but it's just gone and that's fine. That's I mean, obviously I've rephrased what you said, but when you put it like that, it sounds like a huge abdication of responsibility and consequence.
Yeah.
And do you think that that's, like, has effects?
Yeah, I think it does. I don't know. I don't know whether anyone knows, because I don't know whether it's been around for long enough for anyone to establish whether that's necessarily good or a bad thing. I don't know if you can impose those morality on it yet. But I think it's definitely a huge shift in the way we think, and a huge shift in the way that we kind of treat ourselves, or consider ourselves. I mean, I think originally, actually, you have, and look at, like, the difference in social networking and things like that, because social networking sites, because it used to be about having a profile that was actually very much about control.
Yeah.
You choose which pictures are on there. You actually get to write about, like, who you are, what you like, what music you listen to, all of that.
So you, like, presented yourself.
Yeah. In fact, there's even been, like, even within the, like, umbrella term of, like, social networking, there's been a shift within that as well, because it's gone from that to just, like I said, ridding yourself of any kind of control over it, and just sort of stream of consciousness. This sort of...
But I think, like, that's just not... I think people are still really controlling, but they're getting controlled about, like... okay, personally, I think that there's no... Like, people are really aware of this image, like, this 2D version, the screen version of them, their online persona. And although maybe the rules have shifted, I'm not writing, like, 200 or 300 words about, like, who I am and what I'm really interested in. But I am still, like, completely editing, like, my photographs, what happens, like, who I'm, like, all of that.
Who I socialise with.
Yeah, who I socialise with and how it appears online. And I think that there's a huge amount of control, and, like, people are learning to control... They're just, like, they're learning to control that. But then what happens the rest of the time? Like, in sort of 3D land.
Yeah. I think it's... I do feel as though people's lives are constantly being lived in relation to this online world that are part of. In the way that, but then in the same way that 10, 20 years ago, people lived their lives in terms of a CV, and sort of constantly thought about how this would look on a piece of paper that they were going to submit to people, and in that kind of respect.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I do. I think that.
Yeah, because I think
these formats sort of, like, shape the way that we consider the narrative of our existence.
Yeah, that's so true.
Do you know what I mean? So
because I'm sure in the 50s it was very, like, cinematic and, like...
Yeah. And then so people thought of themselves...
And in the 20s people were like, oh, he's got such a dreamy voice. This is the radio.
Yeah. But in, like... I think, in whatever it is that you choose, whatever the form of expression is, it will reshape your idea of the narrative that is your life, if you see what I mean. So if you're somebody... I would spend those times with people think of themselves in terms of a CV, and their life is a blank, white piece of paper with that bullet points for everything they've done. And then you get people who have, like, portfolio careers, and then you get people who literally...
What do you mean by portfolio career?
Where it's kind of in terms of collecting, like, a body of work, and so they think of themselves as a body of work and how they can enrich that and make it better and improve upon it. And then you get people who are, like, the most, like, and probably the most postmodern example of all of it is people that consider themselves in terms of an online persona.
Yeah, because it's funny, because my Fran was like, oh, I need to redo my CV, and I was like, I don't have a CV.
I don't have a CV.
But I think that's so true, that we start thinking about ourselves in terms of our medium, the medium that we interact with most often. But then, I don't know, like, how do you think that affects your emotional development? Like, do you think that there's space, like, I don't know, like, I haven't seen it, maybe there is, but do you think that there's space for, like, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13-year-olds to be, I think what's really important, like, and personally I'm so glad I didn't have this forced upon me, but, like, imagine being 11 and having a Facebook profile.
But imagine being 11.
I know. But like, imagine what you were like when you were 11. And I think when you're like at the kind of beginning of growing up, you need to make mistakes and you need to do stupid stuff and you need to like date awful people and wear really bad clothes and shit. But I'm kind of worried that like that process, the organicness of that, I don't say organic, but like that process is superseded by a fear of stepping out of line and all that standard school ground tactics of like, shit, everybody else has Nikes on, or like my hair needs to be this way, and
it's just completely
exaggerated. Yeah, and I think people are playing it safe online more than anything else because, you know, it's like it's there.
Yeah, I think we really like for this discussion that you have to sort of break it down into what sites people are using because it is actually. But it's almost like it's insufficient now to talk about the internet. As
yeah. That's true.
You have to talk in terms of like separate because it's
big.
A world unto itself.
Yeah.
You know, it's yeah. I mean, I suppose that's the main sort of distinction between.
But do you think people are thinking about? Do you think people think about this?
Yeah.
And do you think they're aware that maybe the way they behave on their computers is affecting...
it totally depends on the person. That is what I think being like internet savvy ultimately boils down to.
Have you thought about it?
Yeah.
So what have you noticed? Like what in your personality? Are there things that you do and you're like, or I don't know, do you have any anecdotal evidence?
I'm reluctant to be sincere or earnest on the internet for that very reason. That sense of embarrassment later on, that sense of having given too much of myself to the internet and having broadcast myself too much without any prior thought. Like before I make a statement and release it into the world, I want it to be something that I've sat there and thought about. You see what I mean? Like, I'm nobody, but I just mean, but I mean anybody I think should think like, what if I was anyone like things like that? But then, so I'm much more inclined to be ironic, maybe a bit sarcastic and tongue-in-cheek. I always get a sense of like embarrassment if I ever type anything really genuine or sort of that I genuinely think or feel.
Yeah.
Sort of end up regretting it.
Everyone's been around brands for such a long time and we're kind of aware of how they build themselves. And like you said at the beginning, the really great thing about the internet is the democracy that it instigates. So that means that we all have the same tools to build the same brands. And like what I think's happening is that you're getting these very like falsified, like, you know, Baudrillard has the simulacra thing.
No.
It's like basically the simulacra is a simulation of reality, but we live in a world where the simulations are more important than the actual things. Right. And he talks about how we like, and then he talks about how with industrial objects we've always found them attractive because they're like so much more perfect than we are. So like I can look at Apple is obviously the best example, and it's like, oh, it's so like measured and ordered and I want to be like that, so you feel like inferior and you kind of fetishize it or whatever. So I think that we've been given the tools to create these like industrial standards simulations of ourselves. So then you're like always conscious of your fake, or not your fake, but your like your logo type.